Hey babes. What an amazing night. I was a little hesitant about doing a live video right now because I just got out of a really amazing workshop and meditation and met with a gentleman who had an array of essential oils, doTERRA oils. Tiffany, what's up, girl? And I totally got high on essential oils right now. Like, I feel like I've had 2 glasses of wine. So I was almost like, should I even make a live video right now? But, hey James, hey Clifford, hey girl. So I wanted to talk about tonight. Yes, I'm gonna for sure do a little tap in with some dope books that I have here. But before I get into that, I wanted to share a little bit. Hey Megan, hi, thanks for tuning in. For those of you that don't know, this whole bae thing, right? Everybody calls each other their bae. And so it means before anyone else. So usually people are using it in relationship terms, right? And so this week, really the last couple weeks, I've really been diving in to just the internal conversation with myself. Really getting in touch with more of the feminine side, right? We have this masculine, feminine side balance. And so sometimes when I'm running a mile a minute and creating 1,000 different things and all of this chaos and stress and drive and, go, it's very masculine. And so really diving into what makes me feel a lot more feminine. And so with that, I started consciously having more of an in-depth conversation with what I'm going to call the ultimate bae. Technically the bae before the bae, or the bae before anyone else, the before anyone else before anyone else, right? So you before anyone else. Yes, exactly. So you, exactly. You are your bae. Exactly. So, my roommate's yelling at me. So, what I really wanted to talk about is some really profound, more just deeper realizations about this. And so some of this I'm just going to kind of forewarn. It may sound a little bit out there, but I just invite you to kind of take everything in and then pick and choose kind of what resonates and see what resonates and what doesn't. And so I'll start by saying that I had this deeper conversation with myself. Okay, that paused for a second. So probably on a really cute face. So I wanted to, in my meditation, damn spell check. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up. So in my meditation, I started going even deeper into the body, right? Which is part of the yay hearts. Thanks, James. That's part of the process of meditation, right? Well, technically you can use it for both. Sometimes I use it to kind of go out of the body more and do a little bit more astral projection. And then ultimately, it's kind of getting back into the body. And what I found was the deeper that I went into my own self and my own consciousness and clearing out all the thoughts or hearing the thoughts and then letting them kind of go, I started a different conversation. And what I heard was my conversation with my body. And so what I kind of mean by that is just try this on for size, right? Consider for a second, I don't care whether you're atheist, whether you believe in God, whether you don't believe in whatever, but if you are a living being down here and you are in a physical body, on some level, you might believe that you have a soul or a spirit or both, right? That's a whole different conversation. But how I look at it is, hey Jerry, how I look at it is Our soul is what connects us to this greater, higher consciousness, right? And it kind of creates this link, this thread that goes down into our physical body. And these physical bodies that we have, imagine it being kind of like a balloon, right? And your spirit then gets to come in and incarnate and inhabit into this physical body and like blow it up like a balloon, so to speak, right? Just to kind of give you a picture. So what allows us to be in our body is our spiritual essence, right? Follow me on that for a second. Same don't hear. Oh, some don't hear. What do you mean, honey? Some don't hear. I don't know what that means. Like hear, like you're hearing? Okay, type me a message and I'll get back to that. But following this thought, right, is that our spirit, or what allows us to be in this physical body is our spirit. Our spirit has its own consciousness, right? Like we are our spirit. We are not the thoughts that we think. We're the thing listening to the thoughts that we think, right? Yay, hearts, love, happy. Oh, Sonia, hi girl. Hey, Jamie. Oh, miss you guys. Girl, we're going to do a sound bath next week. You're going to love it. And I'm going to get you high on these doTERRA oils because they're amazing. Okay, so what allows us to be down here, right, and be in this physical body is our spirit coming in to our physical body, right? So what I started processing and meditating on, you guys are awesome. I love your hearts and your thumbs up. Thank you. What allows us to be down here, the privilege of being down here. I even had this side thought of like, you know, when they talk about driving, like it's not a right, it's a privilege. I kind of thought the same thing about our soul and our spirit being able to be down here in this body. It's not a right. It's actually a privilege. And being able to look at it and have so much gratitude and appreciation for like the ability to be down here is a privilege. If it was a right, we would have every incarnated soul down on this planet, and I don't think everybody would fit on the planet. Right? We'd have to move to Mars and all that stuff. That's a whole other story. Anyways, so what I was gathering, things keep popping up on my phone. The deeper that I went in with this conversation was that if our soul is our own consciousness, right? Again, we're not the thoughts that we think. We are the entity or energy or consciousness that's observing those thoughts. But then this physical, this thing, this suit, this balloon that we have that operates on, we don't even know how it operates, right? It's not the mind that makes our body operate. It's literally, it's the spirit. It's the spirit inhabiting it, right? How does the heart beat? How does the mind work? All of these things, macro, micro, like it's a whole, that's a different conversation. But what I really, really got to is that our physical body is its own process. It's its own entity, so to speak, right? So like I said, just try this on for a second. And so then if it's its own entity and if it's its own consciousness, then what is our relationship to our physical bodies and being in communication with this physical entity? And this is going to sound funny, but again, like, are we having a conscious conversation with it? And so while I was in this meditation, I realized a couple things that I had to really, really acknowledge and really own up to. That was like, well, you know, I'm not always such a good friend to my physical body. You know, like if it was a person, if it's another entity and we have conversations with it, like how do we treat that person? How do we treat ourselves? And yes, we all talk about self-love, but really putting that into like what does that look like, you know? And so in this meditation, I consciously chose to have an actual conversation with the consciousness of my body. because I realize sometimes when I get stressed, I like to float out. I'm sure none of you guys listening ever do that, right? I get lost in thoughts sometimes when I'm really feeling creative. You know, I'm always out here and daydreaming, and that's a beautiful place to be, right? And it's part of a strength. So I'm not taking away from anything like that. But then how many times do we come back in to the body and have a conversation with the body? And so while I was in this meditation, I went completely out. I'll be honest, I went all the way out and I was astral projecting, I was flying around and having all kinds of other conversations. And when I came to the realization of like, oh, I'm not always being present with that conversation with my body. And so when I started talking to the body, and in a way, this might sound weird, but in a way I said, I'm sorry I'm not always here, right? Like I acknowledged when I'm missing from the body, and when if I'm stressed, if I'm whatever, and that then I'm not being present to the physical body. Sometimes I get so stressed out, I don't always remember to like actually sit down and feed myself. I'm being just really real about that. You know, I'm either stressed or I'm in a creative project or whatever, and you know, it doesn't always become a conversation. And so I really got real and said, wow, okay, like if that was a friend that was over at my house and I'm like not being like an awesome, you know, person of like offering it food or whatever, or what if it's a child that we're taking care of? This physical body is almost like a child. And so what's that conversation? What's that relationship like, right? And so once I got really clear on that, I apologized to myself. I acknowledged, right? And then I asked permission to come back in. I said, is it okay that I come back into this physical body? You know, and that's when I started this even deeper dialogue that was like, cool, yeah, like I like you being here, and like how do we create this really amazing partnership and dynamic where we do actually take care of each other, you know? I started doing that now, like when I go to the gym. I don't do a regular routine of like I have to do arms today, I have to do legs today, or whatever. I started asking the body, I'm like, what feels good for you? What do you want to work out today? Right? Sometimes it's my ass. Sometimes it's my calves. So really getting in touch with just that conversation as if it's another consciousness that we get to be in conversation with, should we choose to consciously, right? But that's the before anyone else conversation. I spoke with this woman, this was quite a few years ago. I will never forget this moment of this conversation. This woman was such a like pixie, fairy, beautiful, just soul. She was about, I think she was probably like 82, and just still like pixie, bubbly, amazing woman. And this has to be about 3 years ago now. And she said that she got into a terrible accident and she was thrown from her car, right? And so when her body was thrown from the car, her spirit ended up almost like coming out of the body, right? This is more of like an out-of-body experience kind of conversation. And she remembers like hovering over her body and looking at it and seeing it there. And her conversation, her dialogue, was conversing with the physical body and saying, wow, like I see you there, and you're hurt and you're in pain. And she did the same thing, which is what made me think of this. She said, I would like to come back in. Like her hovering above spirit was like looking down at the body and saying, I would like to come back in. Is it okay if I come back in? And the body spoke back to her, right? And said, yes, I want you here, but I'm scared. And so it put this just humbling, totally different dynamic on the body being like a child that then doesn't operate and it doesn't exist unless our soul and our spirit is within it, And so because it has its own consciousness, and because it's raising its own consciousness as we grow older, it's like raising a child, right? And so it has its own fears that shows up as like nervousness and anxiety. And we have all these other different things that happen in the body that we're like, okay, is it the body happening first, or is it the thoughts that create something? Like, is it chicken or the egg? That conversation I don't think matters. I think what's most important is the fact that there's a dynamic between our consciousness and then what happens in the physical body, and being able to be in a conscious conversation about it before anyone else. Because yes, we all know, or the majority of us, right? Like, our conversation is self-love, and how do we be the best version for ourselves before we go then and be the best version of anybody else, or with anybody else. But if we're not having that conscious gratitude, appreciation, and conscious conversation with our own body, like it's another personality, and I don't want to say personality, like it's another consciousness, then how do we expect to have that different dynamic with other people, let alone other people's bodies? That's a deeper conversation too. I'm going to check in with you guys real quick. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Hey Star, hey Nelson, hey Ethan. Who do we got here? Okay, do we have any questions? Let me see. Great, Sonia. Yes, girl, we're so doing that. Oh my God, I can't wait. We're gonna go do a sound bath. Oh my God, if you guys haven't done one, so amazing. Just as far as like then being in the body and just releasing all of this stuff out of your energy fields, it's so profound. Nelson, some say to look for your hands upon takeoff. And that will aid in recognizing one in detaching. Okay, I can't always, if I hit the see more thing, then it always acts weird on my phone, so I'm not going to do that. So send me a quick message about that. Hey Star, hey Joe, Felix, hey Cosette, hey Ron. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. So yes, having the conversation with the body like it's a consciousness, and just get really quiet with yourself. And do, you know, in your own meditation practice, yes, it's like we can have our own meditations, and then sometimes it's really nice to go to like another class with somebody that you trust and just kind of like have them steer the car for a little bit. And so what I found is when we're having a deeper conversation like that, hey Petalyn, how are you, girl? When we're having a deeper conversation with our physical body, where we feel and we sense all of our emotions, then we'll be able to have a deeper conversation around that emotional mastery, the emotional intelligence of really being able to have that conversation with yourself and be like, okay, what is this that my body is feeling? Where is it in my body? What does it feel like? Why am I feeling this, right? And really being able to kind of, it's that mind, body, spirit kind of conversation, you know? A healthy love of self, exactly. So it's like we can, you know, when we talk about self-love, you know, yes, it's wonderful to go be, you know, do a bubble bath. I'm naming girl stuff. I don't know. Guys do bubble baths too. I am doing S Factor, which is pole dancing class, because that really helps me embrace my feminine side. So there's all these different elements that we can do for self-love, but I just wanted to open up a conversation that was a little bit deeper around self-love and what that looks like. And the self meaning, yes, the spirit and the soul, but then like our body. When you go to the gym, like, do you think about, okay, what do I want? What foods am I putting in? Like, if it was a child, are you going to feed it absolute crap? You know, I'm not talking about like the occasional, like if you want to have a glass of wine, like whatever, all of that stuff, right? But even that, I even started asking my body, I was like, what do you feel like eating? What feels good? And so I just wanted to kind of open that up a little bit more, and one, share my experience, but also just diving in a little bit deeper into, yes, it's the self-love, yes, it's the self-care, but it's really in that, I mean, to me, that's what a conscious lifestyle is are we being conscious of our behaviors, our thoughts, our relationships, and then most importantly, our before anyone else, because we deserve to be before anybody else, because it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, right? It's who we are and who we are when we're by ourselves, and being able to hear that conversation. You know, everybody has these unhealthy thought patterns and, you know, programs and emotion, just all the stuff, right? That's a whole other process of being able to like release all of that. And I love, that's why I love doing this work, is to really get conscious into our behaviors and those thoughts that we're thinking that sometimes we don't even know that we're thinking, because we are not our actual thoughts. There's a whole other multiple different conversations that are happening, but are we paying attention to the thoughts of our body? And sometimes those aren't the loud ones. Those aren't the ones that are, you know, chaotic, that then we're reactionary and drawn to. But when we get to actually really be present with ourselves and hear that conscious conversation, then we get to pick and choose what we want to listen to. You know, is that all the negative chatter? Or am I going to, you know, are we going to stop and listen and say, okay, what feels good and what doesn't feel good? And how does that tie into our emotional mastery and really getting super clear on our emotions, right? And not running the reactionary. So to support all that, since technically this is also Tap In, I thought one of the really, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to write them. Bubble baths and Epsom salts, oh, almost every night make a huge difference, don't they? I absolutely love doing the same thing. I love that. And adding some essential oils. Oh my God. If you guys didn't hear before, I totally got high on essential oils this evening. It's like, wasn't even, I mean, it was funny. I was laughing. I felt like I had 2 glasses of wine. I was like, there was probably like 10 different ones that I was smelling because I wanted to see one that I liked. I found the one I liked. It made me very high. But it also made me just feeling really nice. So to support this conversation with the body, the before anyone else, I'm going to use Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, because she talks a lot about the body, right? And so if you guys have this one, it's page 78, and this is so beautiful. Okay, we're cool. I love this. So I opened up to page 78. Self-criticizing is totally missing the mark. Love that. It will only intensify the procrastination and laziness. The place to put the mental energy is into releasing the old and creating a new thought pattern. What are we talking about? I love how this just, everything always goes so synchronistically. So here she gives, this is why she's so amazing. She gives actually like a little paragraph mantra. So to actually say, and if you guys want to repeat this as like to yourselves, obviously, while I'm saying this, I am willing to release the need to be unworthy. I am worthy of the very best in life. And I now lovingly allow myself to accept it. As I spend a few days doing this affirmation over and over, my outer effect pattern of procrastination will automatically begin to fade. As I internally create a pattern of self-worth, then I no longer have the need to delay my good. That's beautiful. Sorry, it always pauses every time somebody texts me. Do you see how this could apply to some of the negative patterns or outer effects in your life? Let's stop wasting time and energy putting ourselves down for something we can't help doing if we have certain inner beliefs. Change the beliefs. That's a huge, huge conversation. Because yes, we always talk about what our belief patterns are, but like I'm just gonna throw out like a really real question. Do you guys actually hear your beliefs? Do you hear them? Do you hear the conversation that you're having? And knowing that our beliefs are not ours. I'm just gonna like totally throw that out. I do not believe, our beliefs are not ours. We've taken them on and they play out, but they're not ours. They weren't inherently put there. They're put there through patterns and through relational learnings, right? But they're not technically who we actually are. And so if we separate ourselves from thinking that we're our beliefs, then to me, it's almost like you separate it and then you can take yourself out of the equation of being part of the belief and be the observer of the belief, third party observer, and just like look at it, just write it down. If you can hear it, write it down and then be like, wow, is that actually my belief? And once you separate yourself and observe it from the outside, you get to choose. Everything we do is always about choice. So there's no like, oh, this is just how I am, because it's not. It's not just who we are, right? Our beliefs are not our own. We've taken them on and we think that they're our own, but they're not. And all they're doing is keeping us stopped or hindered or in some negative mind chatter. And so if you can write it down, hear it, write it down, look at it, and if you don't like it, then change it, because it's not yours anyway. It got there somehow. But if we are the observer that's seeing the belief, then we're always in control of everything that we want to do. Not in the rigid, like you have to control everything, that's the whole other negative aspect of things, right? But what I mean is, I'll say it this way. We're always at cause for everything in our life. And we are always at cause as to who we want to be for other people, and especially then who we want to be for ourselves. And it has nothing, the limitations have to do with the beliefs, right? But they're not ours. So just, I'm going to say this like it's easy. It's an easy concept, and yet it's very hard to do, right? To just be like, just change the belief. Because I'm going to take that back. I believe that it is easy, because that's a belief. If we think that it's hard, then that's a belief. That's limiting. So if we change the belief to, it's totally easy. I can have a belief, and if I hear it and I write it down and I don't like it, then I can totally change it, because we don't necessarily have to be attached to anything. What is it doing? What's your ROI on the belief systems that you have? What's your return on investment for the belief systems that you're speaking to yourself in your mind? Are they creating positive things, or are they creating negative things? And are they realistic, or are they delusional? No judgment, but right? Because we create all kinds of different things. Hey Cosette, how are you, beautiful? You are your only limit. Very nicely put. Good job. How can you define infinity without putting a limitation on it? How can you define infinity without putting a limitation on it? What are you trying to say, girl? Like that, so I'm picking up, I believe that we are infinite beings. And so I think this is what you're also saying. And if we, for whatever reason, believe that we're not infinite and have infinite potential, then maybe we'll create these little beliefs to try to like overcome those, to try to prove to ourselves that we can do it. It's like, yay, we achieved something, rather than just like nixing the whole belief system that's trying to hold you back and just doing whatever it is, being that infinite, profound, amazing, beautiful light soul that you are, right? Hey, Elijah, how are you, sweetheart? We're infinity. Rhetorical, of course. Exactly. We are infinity. My leg's falling asleep. Thank you for all the thumbs up. Exactly. I'm glad. I hope this resonates with you guys. You know, it's I think for me, I think reminders are always good. And I mean, it's like we all have them, right? Because they've been programmed in us, or belief systems that we took on, right? Hey, Yeshua, beliefs are somehow tied to values. Oh, 100%. 100%. When you get really clear on what your values are, yes, 100%. They're attached. I have this little like worksheet thing that I do where you get to find out what your values are and then find out your beliefs and then actually create your own positive mantra that's uniquely your own sentence out of those. If you guys ever want that, send me a message. I'll send it to you. But as you were speaking, the thought of beliefs, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom came to mind. Yeshua, I'll have to go back and read that because it won't let me do the whole see all thing. Let's see. And I know my infinity will only be as vast as I believe it to be. It's really dope because that, exactly. I believe that we have the potential to be as infinite as we want. 100%. I fully, fully, fully agree with you. And that's where we get to, yes, travel out of our bodies and go find out what those infinite possibilities are, but not to stay out there and to really come back down and be in the conversation and be the gift and spread the gifts that we all have to give, because it's a gift being down here. It's a gift. And being able to love your physical body and appreciate like what had to happen in order for you to get down here. I'm going to read one more before I go. From the trusted Palladian Agenda. Barbara Hand Clow is amazing if you guys haven't looked up this book. Awesome. So I open it up to meditations are for opening dimensional portals. Again, what did I just say? Yes, you could use a meditation to astral project and get out of your body, and then come back down in your body. But something's on me over to this other side of the page. So I'm going to read this super quick. The desire is to be within physical bodies. I'm so not kidding. Because I love how this happens every time. The desire of the third dimension, if you guys have it, it's page 131. The desire of the third dimension is to be within physical bodies, animals, insects, plants, and humans, and to be free. Once you are free, you can create anything you want in any reality you want. This is a much deeper conversation about multidimensionals and all that stuff, which I am happy to have with any of you guys. Ever want to send me a message? I'm not going to dive too deeply into the multiple dimensions. It's definitely a conversation I have a lot, but just to keep it relatively neutral here. But we'll see what Barbara has to say about it. So you get to create anything you want in any reality you want. To accomplish this, you must honor the powers of the first two dimensions and consciously work with them. You must learn to be totally in the present moment in your lives. Once you have learned to be right there in the moment, you will feel that's in quotations, the future by attuning with the fourth dimensional archetypal forces all around you. You need to communicate with these forces because they are your access to the future. So what I will say about that is, I'm going to go a little bit out of the box here. We have different dimensional selves that can go into these different dimensional realities, right? And this is another thing, actually, that I got even in tonight's meditation, is, sorry, wearing contacts is a bitch. And I appreciate them being in my body. I was in this meditation tonight and realizing we have these multiple different aspects of ourselves, right? It can be a thought form, consciousness. It can be whether you're astral traveling, that's a deeper conversation, whatever it is. But we almost have, it's like we open up all these different gateways, right? And so sometimes we leave those gateways open and they're draining parts of our energy. And so the goal is to actually, you can try this in a meditation or whatever, even just closing your eyes and asking your conscious self, how many gateways are open, right? I see them as like jars with caps off, right? And whatever number comes up to you, the first one, that's usually your intuition, that's how many you have open right now. That's how many different access points are kind of shooting out to either different realities or targeting into different dimensions, whatever it is. And so they're draining our energy. And so the goal is to actually consciously ask those energies to come back into the body, close the caps, right? And really pull all of your energy back in. Once you're fully back in the body, it's like, they're like fragments of yourself, right? So once you defragment and pull all of these different awarenesses back into your body, so then you're full and whole and complete, and you're not needing outside sources that are, basically draining your energy. Then from there, and that's what I believe that Barbara's also saying in this book, then from there, you can send one awareness out to the future. And there's a timeline technique that I know how to do also, where you can follow your timeline. But that's one conscious thought, one conscious awareness, or asking if you guys believe in guides and your team and all that stuff. I do, but some people don't. So I'm just trying to make it pretty neutral. Asking your guides to bring information to you so that we're not fragmenting ourselves and creating these different aspects of ourselves that's draining our energy. It's being able to pull them all back in and then sending out one conscious, being present and feeling, being in the body and feeling who you are and where you're at right now, and then sending one conscious thought out. And or asking your guides or your team to bring that awareness to you. And that can be visions of the future. I think that's kind of what she's talking about here. I like to do that in a real sense. What is that called? To me, it's like daydreaming. I do think that it's important to kind of sit with yourself and be like, what are all the possibilities that I see available? And just really go all the way out and see all the different things that are available to you. Not having any negative beliefs of why you can't or why you shouldn't or whatever, but really just taking all of that in and daydreaming about it. That's the creative part. And then whatever feels like the most fun, take that one and then create projects around how you want to do it and create it and whatever it is. Let me check in with you guys. I don't know. Is that making sense? Awesome. Thank you for the thumbs up. Yay. Let's see. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but thank you, Sarah, for everything. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. I got your message on Facebook too, and we're gonna have a conversation about that. But I love that you're just gaining so much more awareness of self and what you deserve and what you don't deserve, and what your belief systems are and what they are not. You know, you deserve everybody deserves the utmost happiness and joy. And if somebody's in your life, I'll just call you out, James. If somebody's in your life that doesn't feel like is creating that with you, then you get to set your standards as to where they are. Because if your belief system is anything less than you being an amazing, beautiful spark of a spirit that has an amazing purpose to send and bring love on this planet to people and just be the incredible person you are, anything that diminishes that is below your standard. And you don't have to believe that you have to operate for that. But maybe you set up that challenge for yourself so that you could overcome something and then you could feel like you overcame it. Sometimes we do that in this human form, because sometimes we want to feel stuff. It doesn't always feel good. We're like, oh, let's not do that again. So I appreciate you, hun, and you're just so open and so aware, and just keep remembering that what your values are and what your beliefs are and what your standards are, and keeping them here. And that goes for everybody. Set our standards higher. Like, that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to read one super quick last one. Hang on, what do we have? Let's see. I was initiating conversation with clients today about daydreaming. Awesome. And that focusing on fun, joyful things we daydream about is how we can create the life that we really want to live. 100%. 100,000%. Because I believe that when you feel joy and you feel fun and you really tap into what that feels like, that's your spirit. So everybody's like, how do I know what my purpose is? And how do I know if I'm following my purpose? Like, follow what feels fun. I mean, like, don't be stupid about it. I don't know. I said that to somebody and they were like, well, what if something sounds like fun, like doing a bunch of drugs? If that's part of your purpose, I'm not going to judge anything on it. But all I'm saying is keep it on the level of daydreaming about what your potential, what your highest potential is, and what it is that you want to create down here. And following what feels the most fun with that. You know, when I started these tap-ins, I was just like, it just sounds like fun. I used to do it when I was living in Sedona, and I had a whole group of people, and we would open up books and just ask random questions, and I was like, it just feels like fun. Let's do it on Facebook Live. Why not? Which I think I'm going to start doing Instagram Live too, but that's going to be probably a little bit more educational. So if you guys ever want to check out that, I'm going to pick a day. I have 2 different pages. One is at Sarah Delaine, which is SERAHDLAINE. That's going to be more around relationships and love and all of that fun stuff. And then more the energetic, esoteric education. I think the newest one I'm going to do is probably going to be on the auric field, the biofields that we have and why that's so important to our physical health. But that one can be found at my Sovereign Alliance Instagram page, and that's SOVEREIGN. So I'm probably going to do one of those tomorrow. But either way, one more quick one for this evening about the Bay, the ultimate Bay. The ultimate before anyone else, which is you. From the Path of Love, Osho. Yes, I know it's backwards. Back to the child self. Exactly. I don't want to say reliving, but it's the body, I feel like, is like the consciousness of the body is kind of like the child. That's kind of like our inner child. And that's what's connected ultimately to the spirit, right? And the spirit just wants to have fun. It just really wants to play and have joy. And we create all this chaos to like take away from our joy. Humans. We're so human. Okay, so if you guys have this one, it's on page 94. This will be the last thing that I'll say for tonight. Message from Osho says, and I am not promising you anything. Okay. I cannot promise in the very nature of things. Good. Truth cannot be promised. You have to feel it. Remember that authority appeals to the head, to the reason. I don't appeal to the reason. My appeal is to the heart. The heart does not bother about authority. When you fall in love with a woman, do you ask for authority? That's funny. Except not. Has she any authority from Cleopatra? Has she any authority from Cleopatra that she is beautiful? Do you ask for certificates? That's funny. We should start asking for certificates before relationships, maybe. That's a joke. Has she been certified by experts that she is really a beauty? Do you take her to the doctor to examine her? Do you take her to a philosopher to decide whether she is really a beauty? No. Even if the whole world says that she's not beautiful, you say, I don't care. I love her and I know that she is beautiful. She is beautiful because you love, not otherwise. She's beautiful because you love, not otherwise. You don't love her because she's beautiful. She becomes beautiful because you love. That's awesome. That's our body. Every single person's body, every single person on this planet is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That's a mantra we should wake up to every single day. And are we choosing to think that we're our own beautiful essence? Or are we stuck in some belief that we're not? And yes, you can always take that into relationships too. It's not of the mind. That's really awesome. That's really beautiful. Pun intended. So thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for all the loves and the hearts and the thumbs up. And I hope this message gave you, at least if nothing else, a reminder to be in a conversation with yourself and your body and how important that is, because that's your ultimate bay. So if you think that this might inspire somebody else, please feel free to share it. If you guys ever have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm always here to answer them. And check out my 2 Instagram pages. I'll probably do some more educational videos on there. I'll usually do those around noon. So I'm going to start doing those. Those are new. But thank you guys so much. And thank you for being beautiful beacons of light on this planet and sharing your message and being who you are. You are amazing. You are love. You are loved. And I love you. Thanks, babes. Have a good night.